Hi everybody, Bandicoot Commando here and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Last time, sorry, it's just, nose is runny and I just sneezed a few times before I started. Last time, I showed off some of the stuff that was going on in Times Square, some of the new things that was going on. And so today, well, based on the title, I got all the gallery cards here for Season 6, The Night at the Museum. So, you know the drill. Here we go. One Night at the Museum. I should have expected this. When an elder of the universe such as I collects the rarest and most valuable items from across all known realities in one place, there are bound to be misguided fools who wish to get their hands on them. I built my glorious new gallery to make sure that none of my prized possessions would ever be liberated from their permanent displays. So much for that. Fortunately, I have others in my service devoted to eliminating these intruders and returning the item they absconded with. While they clean up this mess, however, I must consider exactly what they stole and why they stole it, and to do so, I must look back at how the artifact came into my possession in the first place, not so long ago. He arrived in our domain in the dead of night, a burst of flame and the stench of brimstone announcing his presence. The other elders wanted nothing to do with him. After all, we are not known for having the kindest of souls, a fact that makes ours even more delectable to a lord of the underworld like Mephisto. I welcomed our esteemed guest to my gallery with open arms, expecting that he came here to claim the soul of a specific creature residing within my mass menagerie. But as it turned out, his focus was actually on an unusual item in my private collection. This piece of fine art, built from a collection of precisely twisted brass pipes, was as old as the multiverse itself. But as lovely as it was, its purpose had long remained an enigma to me. Still, I was reluctant to part with it, unless Mephisto had something better to offer. And as it turned out, he did indeed. Mephisto held out what seemed to be a simple piece of parchment. The paper itself had no value, but what was written on it instantly caught my attention. It was a deal for the soul of a Terran woman, a woman with a familiar surname, Von Doom. Knowing the chaos that Victor Von Doom had recently unleashed upon all realities, I felt it would be wise to have something in my possession that offered me leverage over him when the inevitable time came when he challenged me and my fellow elders, and to acquire it for the price of a twisted pile of scraps seemed to be the steal of the millennium. Mephisto said he was extremely satisfied that we had reached a condorance, taken the sculpture, and disappearing back to whatever hell he crawled out of, and I was left with a new treasure for my gallery. At least until my fellow elder, the Grandmaster, hired some Terrans to liberate it. I never imagined they would be able to break through all my defense measures to steal it. Wherever he is, I am certain Mephisto is laughing at me. When these thieves will soon discover that the joke is on them. That is the second instance of this item that's been mentioned. This twisted bunch of pipes and metals that the collector had and that Mephisto wants for some reason. I know this is going to come to play in a later season, but I need to know what the hell this item is, because it sounds familiar. Okay. The true monster. What a bloody mess you've gone and gotten yourself into, Elsa. When I signed up with the Collector, it was as a freelance monster hunter. The geezer wanted me to track down the nastiest of nasties to lock up in his fancy cosmic zoo. Seemed like an easy gig for a girl who spent the last chunk of her nigh immortal life traveling her collapsed timeline, fending off unspeakable horrors, and mapping out what was left of a broken world. But in all my years living up to the Bloodstone family legacy, I've never I've never seen anything quite like this. Sure, the Collector's menagerie was home to some of the creepiest crawlies that ever lived, but it was also full of normal folks, members of every species from every planet across time and space. The Collector may have been writing my paychecks, but I couldn't help but wonder if maybe the real monster was the man running the show. Questionable ethics aside, I had a job to do, and I wasn't alone. That might sound like a good thing, but somehow I'd been saddled with the worst possible partner I ever could have imagined. Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, the only mercenary I know who's got more jokes than bullets. Not exactly my type of bloke, and if I didn't despise him enough already, it turned out he was the one who's been rounding up innocent beings while I was busy gathering the ghouls. When Wade told me that the Collector was making his captives fight each other for sport, my blood began to boil. I was almost ready to hang up my shotgun, but then the alarms started blaring. 2 mutants from back home on Earth had apparently run off with one of my new boss's most valuable possessions. Served him right, if I'm being honest. The Collector ordered Deadpool to track them down, fully aware that my contract implicitly stated that I hunted monsters only. He also knew that Wade would gladly betray anyone for a few lousy quid. But who my so-called partner betrayed next surprised even me. Apparently, when he recognized one of the thieves, an X-Man named Rogue, he switched sides without warning. I guess the two of them had formed an unexpectedly close bond over the years. I truly had no desire to learn the sordid details. To cover his friend's tracks, Poole started smashing display cases, releasing dangerous creatures to buy precious time for her to escape and to keep me off their trail. See, despite appearances to the contrary, Wade isn't stupid. He realized that the Collector would find a loophole to send me after them. I may have not been willing to harm the mutants, but our boss could force me to retrieve the contract they stole. However, now there were monsters running loose through his massive museum. Wade counted on the fact that the Collector would want to minimize the damage to his gallery, and that I wouldn't let some innocent alien get eaten by a dinosaur or infected by a brood queen because I was chasing after some worthless scrap of paper. Clever lad. So here I am, locked and loaded, risking my life again. Things are about to get real messy. All I can hope is that when this is all over, Deadpool is still here, and that I have one shell left for him. Well, at least we know how things work out in the lore stories for them, though. Oh boy, here we go. The Ballad of Wade Wilson. Gather around now, children, and don't be afraid. Gonna sing you a song about a fellow called Wade. You may already know him. He says he's pretty cool. He's the merc with a mouth, better known as Deadpool. Now Wade'll take a job for whoever floats the bill. Doesn't question who he has to maim or hunt or trap or kill. But when his universe collapsed and the time stream got entangled, Wade knew he had to grab for any carrot that got dangled. The Collector saw that Wade was pretty desperate for a gig, so he offered Wade a contract that was unusually big. All Wade had to do was gather unique living creatures. That the Collector could display in his gallery as features. Wade knew the collector's offer was more than a little sus, but he still agreed to hop on board Doctor Strange's magic bus. He traveled through the multiverse, grabbing folks against their will. Wade justified by saying he was saving them, but still. Once they were safe inside the collector's big glass cases, Wade tried to ignore the sad and desperate looks upon their faces. Deep inside, Wade knew what he was doing was still wrong. But a job's a job, at least until the X-Men came along. Two mutants pulled a heist in the Collector's Grand Museum, so Wade was sent to hunt them, but then he got to see them. Museum, them? That doesn't rhyme. It doesn't exactly rhyme well. He realized his hot pursuit would surely have to end. He couldn't bear to gun down Rogue, his closest mutant friend. Wade turned on the Collector in a fit of righteous rage, helping every captive creature break free from its glass cage. It gave Rogue and her man Gambit time to make their big escape, but it also put Wade Wilson into quite the nasty scrape. It turned out that the Collector hadn't hired Wade alone. He had also employed a monster hunter named Bloodstone. When Elsa came a-hunting all the monsters Wade let loose, our merc knew that she eventually capped his sweet caboose. Elsa took out monsters of all sizes and all shapes. A dinosaur, a godly frog, and probably some apes. But just when Elsa turned her gun on Wade, how rude, our hapless hero found himself assaulted by a brood. The brood was not just ugly, she was also really mean. And even worse, this space roach was a genuine brood queen. That meant that when Wade was skewered by the stinger on her tail, she planted eggs inside of him. Deadpool for the fail. The brood she kept attacking, leaving Wade in dire condition. As consciousness was fading, he reflected on his mission, while Elsa shot the brood queen and her bullets bounced right off of her. Wade suddenly stopped caring about the dollars in his coffer. What good was money anyway? It was time to find some peace. Life was only temporary, and he outstayed his lease. And if now was his time to go, it wasn't all so bad. He might die in this museum, but at least he'd be a dad. Well, we know that. We know how things turned out, though, for that story. Here we go. The New Marauders. Go over this for me one more time, Emma, Iron Man said from the helm of the New Marauder, just to make sure I've got it right. I thought you were one of the most brilliant men alive, Tony, Emma responded. I am, Iron Man said. I upgraded your fancy yacht into a fully functional deep space transport, didn't I? It's just the mission itself I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I suppose I can't fault you for failing to comprehend Deadpool's brand of lunacy, Emma replied. I've gotten used to it over time, but this is particularly bizarre, even for him. I know what happened in the Collector's Gallery, Iron Man said, but after that... That's when things truly spiraled out of control, Emma said. Gambit and Rogue were fugitives, and Deadpool had changed sides to help them. As a distraction, he'd released some of the most dangerous creatures in the Collector's menagerie, but after he and that red-haired huntress sparred for several rounds, he turned his escape plan into a rescue mission. It was the last thing I expected from him. It was the last thing I expected from him, Psylocke said as she and the ship's other crew members, Venom and the Punisher, entered the bridge. He's full of surprises, Emma said, and they just kept coming. Deadpool had clearly intended to use that enchanted school bus he stole from Doctor Strange as an escape vessel, but the Contemplator's spirit energy transformed it into a garnished monstrosity that I can't even begin to describe.
It was a pool float,
Venom chimed in.
shaped like a ducky.
Yes, well, Emma continued, there was no way it could have held all of the creatures Deadpool was trying to liberate. That's when my sweet baby swam in to save the day.
You're talking about the shark, right?
The Punisher asked. His name is Jeffrey, Emma snapped, and he is a land shark, one who apparently had ingested a healthy dose of pin particles at some point. I remember that, Psylocke said. It was back when we first escaped the Collector's Gallery together. My little handsome man used those particles to shrink down the refugees and load them onto the ducky, Emma said. Then they traveled through the Grand Garden until they reached the Contemplator's sensor, using the sensor to fill the lifeboat with mysterious gas. And Deadpool suddenly vented it, launching them into the depths of space. And now we're scouring the stars searching for them, Iron Man said. Do you realize how big space is, Emma? Our chances of finding them are smaller than Ant-Man's.
We have located them,
Venom interrupted, much to Tony's surprise.
Jeffrey wore a symbiote not long ago. We can still feel him through our hive mind.
Well, how about that? Iron Man shrugged. Guess our mission's a success after all. Should be smooth sailing from here on. Don't jinx us, darling, Emma replied cautiously. After all, it's a long journey back to Krakoa, and we're about to welcome Deadpool on board. Anything could happen. Wait, hold on. Let's see who Jeff is holding. He's holding Throg, Cosmo, Lockheed, Howard, and Devil Dinosaur. There and back again. We've been here before, Cher. Said our vows and celebrated our love, and then right on cue, our world fell to pieces. But even after all we've gone through together since the first time I put a ring on that pretty little finger of yours, well, tried to at least, there's still no doubt in my mind I'd say I do a million more times. Not gonna lie though, for a minute there, I wasn't sure we'd get another chance to finish what we started. The Collector had us on the run, Deadpool launched us into space, and even after we got rescued by Emma and her new crew of marauders, I wasn't convinced the Quiet Council was ever going to let us come back on Krakoa. Not after what Magneto told you back in the Grand Garden. He said you was a threat to our people, that your powers were out of control. But instead of running away from it all, you took it as a challenge. You harnessed that power and proved them wrong. Just like you've proved so many people wrong about you so many times in your life. That's one of the things I love most about you, Anna Marie. You don't care what other people got to say. You follow your heart. I'm the luckiest man alive that it led you to me. Not sure I've always been worthy of the love you give me, but I've been trying my best. That whole caper in space was just my way of getting you the perfect ring after your first one got sucked into the time stream. Even though my deal with the Grandmaster fell apart, Emma helped me finish the job. She turned that Chronovium die the Grandmaster hadn't had time to reclaim into a pair of wedding rings. The crystal's power may be long gone, but it still sparkles almost as bright as your eyes. Hope it's enough to show you how much j'aime. It's French. He's saying how much you love me. Looks like the love we share may be inspiring others. Inspiring others, too. Just look at Stormy over there. Finally opening up enough to give the Panther a chance. Well, truth told, I don't know what's going on with Loki and Mantis, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. Of course, There are also those who didn't make it here to celebrate with us this time around. Folks like Scotty, who stood by us when all this started, who ain't made it home yet. And while our honeymoon across the stars may be already be over, they ain't gonna stop me from searching every corner of this here universe till all of our friends are back safe and sound. Till then, let's raise a glass in their honor, cut the cake, and finally get our first official dance as a married couple, before Deadpool's new pals rip the dance floor to shreds. Even if the universe does fall apart again in the middle of it all, I ain't worried, cause I got you by my side, Madame Lebeau, now and forever. That's nice. It's nice to see that, yes, they patched things up, they reconciled, and now they married. Everything worked out in the end. Let's see. Howard and Thrall. Of course, Howard's not going to turn down a wedding if there's going to be drinks involved. Jeff, Cosmo, Devil Dinosaur, Lockheed, and yes, over there, Mantis and Loki. Haze of future past. Every girl's got an idea in her head for her perfect wedding. Mine, well, didn't go exactly as I hoped it would. At least not the first time around. So after our little honeymoon across the galaxy came to an end, me and Remy decided to renew our vows in front of all our friends, old and new. It ended up being the kind of ceremony I've been dreaming about all of these years. Honestly, I couldn't have been happier. Till I got back to our wedding suite, that is. Don't worry, Remy didn't do nothing wrong this time. He had been the perfect gentleman all night long, so after I danced to a few too many of Dazzler's songs, I quietly excused myself and let my hubby keep the bon temps rouleing with our guest. I'd barely kicked off my fancy shoes before I realized I wasn't alone in the room. I thought maybe Remy had come back early to surprise me, but when I turned around, I saw my own face reflected in the metal mask of Doc Doom, the one from this here future Krakoa ended up in. Emma told me about how he betrayed her at the Hellfire Gala. It looked like he was back to crash another party. Naturally, I lunged straight toward him, ready to land a super-powered fist to his tin-plated face. But before I can get the satisfaction, he shot me with some sort of high-tech weapon that instantly shut off my mutant abilities. While I was down and out, he searched the room till he found what he was looking for. The contract that Remy and I stole from the collector's gallery. Soon, as he had his hands on it, Doom fell to his knees, ripping off his mask and crying out in agony. When he dropped the contract between us, it was suddenly clear why he wanted it so bad. The name signed at the bottom? Cynthia Von Doom. I could feel the effects of his weapon wearing off. My mutant powers were coming back, and I only had a split second to act. So, without even thinking, I took off my glove and touched the exposed skin on Doom's cheek. Never could I expected what came next. Usually when I touch someone, I'm flooded with every single memory from their past. But this Doom, he didn't have any. It's like his history was an empty void. His identity was a mystery, even to himself. But he still knew deep in his bones that this contract was the key to unlocking his lost truth. I never felt anything quite like it. The total absence of self was overwhelming. I didn't realize I'd pass out till Remy bust into the room and woke me up. By then, Doom was long gone, and the contract was gone with him. But the feeling stayed with me. I've got the sneaking suspicion that, just like my wedding itself, this is the start of a whole new chapter. Oh yeah. We're gonna possibly resolve this. Can you are you able to read what it says here? Cynthia Von Doom. I can't really... Mephisto. Yeah, I can't really read some of this. It's like in another language. It's probably in like Lavarian language. Here's the final page. Monsters take Manhattan. Wow, what a season, kids. Who wants a quick recap because they were too busy mastering my moves and didn't bother to read the other gallery cards? Yeah, thought so. Well, lucky for you, Uncle Wade is in a sharing mood. It all started with Gambit and Rogue on the run for stealing a contract from the Collector's Cosmic Museum. Remember? I was sent to stop them, but I couldn't bring myself to hurt Anna Marie for any price. So instead, I switched things up and let loose all of the Collector's creepiest creatures. The big red dinosaur, the frog with the itty-bitty hammer, all of them. It was supposed to keep Elsa Bloodstone occupied, but when she eventually did catch up, she let me go anyway. After all, I was pregnant and vulnerable at the time. Guess she realized my heart was in the right place, even if my head wasn't. We escaped on an enchanted raft, got rescued from deep space by a crew of Emma's Frost flying yacht, and returned safely to Krakoa in time for a redo of Gambit and Rogue's wedding. And that was it, everyone. That was that. Everyone got their happy endings. Except for the Collector's menagerie of monsters, including the baby brood I'd spawned along the way. The less details about that fiasco, the better. There are kids playing this game. I knew I couldn't call this mission a success till I found them a new place to call home. But where on earth could freaks of nature like them ever hope to fit into society? There was only one answer. Staten Island. I couldn't just let them run free to run amok in New York City's least respected borough. Could I? I needed a plan. That's when Elsa Bloodstone yanked me off the dance floor and suggested that I stay with my new pals to keep them in line. At first, I wasn't keen on the idea, seeing that I'm a hired mercenary who doesn't really do the whole pro bono thing. But I had a sudden change of heart when she told me if I ditched them the way I ditched Jeff back in the day, there'd always be some other collector sniffing around this ragtag crew of monster pals. It also helped that she offered a significant chunk of her family fortune to fund the endeavor. And that brings us to now. Magic and Scarlet Witch worked together to open a portal across time and space, bringing me back to the New York of my era, and with a little help from my beastly buddies and my old pal Jeffy, I'm building a new monster kingdom. And every kingdom needs a king, right? Want to guess who gets to wear the crown? It's me, Deadpool. Still, even with a wholly all-consuming mission blazing inside my heart, I can't seem to get the ferry to take me over to Manhattan. Rumor has it, whoever is in charge over there has put the city on lockdown. Guess it's a good thing your boy Way has a way of showing up wherever he's least wanted. So, we're trying to get to Staten Island, but the city is on lockdown for one reason or another. However, I already see the hints of what's coming. A white fox? A black cat? Only two things that this thing can link to. We're definitely gonna get White Fox, because she was discovered in the data mine long ago. And as for the Black Cat, that has to refer to, well, Felicia Hardy Black Cat. As a reminder, here it is. As a reminder, yep, White Fox here as a plush. And since she is a friend of Luna, of the Agents of Atlas, and as for Black Cat, Well. That's what going to Times Square is for. Let's see. It's here somewhere. Somewhere here in Times Square. Oh, yep, there it is. Felicia's wanted for grand larceny, burglary, theft of high-value tech and art, obstruction of justice, assault on officers, evading arrest, and property damage. So,
Needs no introduction.
So, we know what's coming. Possibly what's coming. Oh, whoops. I wanted to exit out of here. Overall, this season was a crazy one, considering the stuff that was added and all of that. Especially with Deadpool, with his role being a multi-role, which is a first. I hope we might get more like that later down the line. Although, instead of making it so that a character can play all three roles, maybe you should do a multi-role where you can play one version that is a vanguard or a strategist or a duelist and strategist. You know, different combinations. And of course, eventually give another role one that can play all three roles. But this was indeed a crazy season. I look forward to what Season 7 holds. And because we are going to get White Fox and Black Cat, I look forward to how they're going to play out. I wonder, am I okay to read these? No, hold on. I'm not that okay to read these, am I? When was the last time I read these collectibles? Give me a sec, people. I need to check through because depending on circumstances, might have to read a new set of them. Videos. Oh boy, it's gonna be a while for me to get there. Okay, special edition stuff. Treasures, and at that time, when I read the treasures, it looked like the last thing I got to was that was during Season 2. So did I read up on more treasures? Let's see. Let's see, Marvel Zombies. Lore showcase. Well, maybe I should actually... Oh, part 2 of the special edition comics. Then Rogue, and then the showcase for Season 6. Okay, I think, yeah, we can do a new treasures, but let me read through the... Let me see exactly. Oh, yeah, we can definitely do a video. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we've been through 1, 2, 3. We've been through 4 seasons, so I'll be sure to do a video on that next time. It'll be a short one, but still. Alright, that is it, and I will see you guys next time.